Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I hope you enjoy this interview. Hello, Kalu, and good to see you. Welcome to the program.
Pleasure to be here. Nice to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you, Kalu. I think it will be nice for us to begin with Israel's, that's Iran-Israel's conflict and the impact on oil price, because I've been taking a look at the prices of the different grades, of course, the different grades of oil in the last few days. Brent crude is trading as at 89 US dollars this morning before I came into the studio. Bonnie Lights, of course, according to OPEC, it's at around 90 US dollars. What do you think will be the impact on the oil markets moving forward? That is one. Then number two, do you think that oil is on an escalatory, there's an escalatory dynamics to oil prices as we go ahead, even though a lot of countries have called on Israel not to retaliate?
Thank you, Nancy. I think oil prices started to go up when we had the first strike by Israel on the Syrian embassy, the Iranian embassy in Syria. It started to inch up then and it cooled down a bit. And then when Iran said they were going to retaliate, then it went back up. And yesterday, when they had the retaliation, it was at 91. Even though the markets were closed, it was at 91 for Brent crude. So traders are again worried about disruption in oil prices. Again, if you remember that Russia is out of the market, right, officially. So any disruption is going to be major when there's a US election coming up. So the US is very, very worried about that. So they are pressing Israel not to retaliate, because if Israel retaliates, then of course we have a global crisis and it will definitely affect oil prices. So for now, we're watching to see what Israel will do. If Israel does nothing, then oil prices in Iran are safer, and then the prices can start to come down a bit. But there's still the uncertainty now from now till November, which is going to be the
Exactly.
US elections. US is not the largest exporter of crude oil now. They're now exporting crude oil from the US. But that's not going to be enough if there's a disruption. That would push prices to even near 95 or to 100. So that's the fear. What would Israel do? I don't think they would do anything because the US has asked them not to, but still it keeps the prices elevated and uncertainty is there as well, which is what markets do not like.
Now, the next question is, what do you think OPEC will do? Because OPEC has been holding the prices, of course, close to a tight range, close to 100 US dollars in the last few months. It's done a pretty good job, though, at least in the last few months. So what do you think that OPEC will be looking at right now and its response?
OPEC is worried about pricing. They're cartels, so they want the prices to stay high, and they've done that by cutting supply. Saudi has cut its own with Russia. They've gone unilateral to cut even more supply higher than what OPEC has done. So I see them keeping supply the way it is. They want to keep prices higher so they can balance their budget. So for them, anything that restricts supply is good, but supply restriction that they can control. They don't want a war to restrict supply. They want to be able to turn up the pipes on and off to increase or reduce the price of crude oil, which keeps the prices higher. That's their own plan. So I don't see any change in their strategy of keeping oil prices higher. I don't see that happening. Yeah.
So what is the impact of all this drama that we're seeing on Nigeria in terms of oil production? When I was taking a look at the data some weeks ago too, in terms of our production volume, in January we're at about 1.4 million barrels,
Mm.
February 1.3, March 1.23 million barrels a day. What do you think that our policymakers, or even what Mr. President should be thinking of now? Because this is one commodity that contributes more to his revenue.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good opportunity for Nigeria to balance her budgets because we have the output side and the pricing side. On the pricing side, we were at $77 in the budget. Now it's at 91. So clearly we have a big advantage there. The problem is the output. January, February, and now March. March is out. We're by 1.2 million barrels per day. So the trajectory has been down. Oil output from Nigeria has been down. The NNPC has explained that the output is down because of the pipeline issue. The transnational pipeline has issues, but the fact that the output is down. Budget is 1.7. OPEC is about 1.5. We're doing 1.2. So we're not even meeting OPEC. We're not meeting the budget. That's 1.2. So it's a big opportunity we're seeing going past, because if we don't take advantage and the tensions cool down, oil goes back to 80, 70, then we're back to where we were. Remember, oil prices are even at 80 because OPEC is cutting supply. If OPEC allows the market to, or allow the guys to pump, then oil prices actually go down and that hurts us. So we might be missed opportunity to rake in more revenues from our oil exports.
How about the impact on the Naira? Because we've seen that the Naira has broken a resistance level so far. Um, a lot of analysts, have said in the past, at least in the last 3 months or so, that the Naira will get to 2,000 Naira. In fact, I know to $1. I know of a few people that were hedging against the Naira. They were buying a lot of dollars to see it. Of course, speculatory activities, but they've been shocked to their bones so far. What do you think that this crisis in the Middle East, how do you think it will impact the Naira vis-a-vis oil price too?
I mean, it's a good, interesting question because Nigeria gets the revenues from the dollar revenues from say 5 sources. The key one is oil exports. So we have oil exports, then we have foreign portfolio investments, foreign direct investments, then we have loans. These are the three main contributors of forex. If you're counting remittances, big four. Remittances are down. That's historically. But now they have picked up. I think we are getting remittances about 1.3 billion. That is more in February alone. That is more than Nigeria got, say, historically, if you compare last year. In terms of foreign portfolio investment, as at February, Nigeria's about 2.3 billion. That's more than we got the whole of 2023. So what you're seeing is that there's supply coming from remittances and from foreign portfolio investment. It's coming in. Is that supply coming in that has made the Naira rise on the market and break those resistance levels we are talking about? So supply has come in, and not just coming, the CBN is now supplying the BDCs with dollars. And because there's supply of BDCs in the market, supply of dollars to the BDCs in the market, the price of the Naira has strengthened and it has gained value. The problem here is this. Those two items, the foreign portfolio investment, come with a huge cost. We're issuing bonds at 20% to borrow dollars and then give to the BDCs at below price. We need to sell more crude oil because crude oil doesn't come with interest. If there's crude oil revenues coming in, the Naira will go back to even 800, 700. The problem you see today is that the strength of the Naira is based on borrowed dollars, while borrowing via foreign portfolio investments by selling almost securities in dollars to then supply the market. It's not sustainable in the long term. The CBN has bought time for the NNPC to export crude oil. If the NNPC does not export crude oil by this time next year, the dollar is going to go back to where it was, say, a month ago. That's just the dynamics, Nancy.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, and I also hear you. That was why you mentioned even earlier that we should use this opportunity of the Middle East tensions to be able to, balance out whatsoever yo-yo behavior that we've seen concerning Naira and, of course, the exchange rate, because all that, it's very important. And I hope that our policymakers are also taking note of all of this, because of course, there's nobody that is praying for a war or a crisis, but even when there's a war, a lot of people gain. People that make arms and ammunition and co, they smile to the bank and all of that. So in this case, for example, Iran is an oil-producing country, even though it's sanctioned. Nigeria and other countries in OPEC will definitely, gain from that. So I just hope that Nigerian authorities are taking note of this. What sort of levels do you see for the Naira moving forward? Really, that's one. Then you said, of course, that this is somehow like a band-aid from the Central Bank of Nigeria. How long do you think that it can hold this for? Because if you take a look at it, sorry to cut you short, Cardoso, or was it Cardoso or Wale Adu that said we've had a few FPIs into the country in terms of inflows, about $3 billion, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're taking a look at that, and our FX reserves have been around 34, 33 billion US dollars. So how far do you think that the central bank can continue to defend the Naira as it were? Because this is actually a defense, whatever it is. manage float or whatever they call it. Then number two, what sort of levels do you see for the Naira moving forward, assuming that the central bank is able to hold this? Can it fall to that 800 Naira that you spoke about, even without increasing crude oil volume?
Yeah, I think Nancy, lots of issues here, right?
Yes.
If the US keeps rates high, that's a bigger problem than even the oil price. Because right now you have, if you take money to the US, you're getting 4%, 5% risk-free dollar. 4%, 5%. The whole world assumed that the US will cut rates. US is saying they won't cut rate now because inflation is sticky. If rates remain at 4, 5%, then you have Nigeria has got to do more risk premium FPIs to attract dollars in. The dollars we see today are in here because we've raised interest rates 20% to borrow dollars. That's the dollars we're seeing here today. So the answer is quite simple. How much can Nigeria afford to borrow dollars at this expensive rate
Kalu,
to
sorry, I
keep the
have to cut
dollar?
you short here because as you're saying, as you're giving your own analysis, I'm thinking of a few other questions from that is follow-up. If you're saying that we are borrowing, of course, at the rate of 20%, I think there's a treasury bills, for example, 20
Almost.
points, yes, 20.6%, I think, for 364 days. Don't you also think that it's also a way to balance out because there's an incentive for people to dump their dollars? Because we've seen, because of that increase in interest rates, as it were, many Nigerians are now moving to that market. A lot more are dumping their dollars, which they would have speculated on. A lot more people that also have Naira have also started investing. So balance it out for me. I had to ask that follow-up.
The CBN sold about 1.05 trillion. About this 79% were foreigners. They are targeting foreigners. They want the dollars. It's not just the return. They don't want the Naira per se. They want the dollars to come in so they can have ammunition to defend the Naira. And it is working. You issue at 20%, foreigners bring dollars in, swap to Naira, and invest in your instrument. That's what's happening. It's that supply that's allowing the CBN the latitude and this flexibility to then defend the Naira on the market. The point I'm making is two points now. Number one, US rates are still high US interest rates are still at 4 or 5%. So that hasn't gone down. The plan was it was supposed to go down. That hasn't gone down. Number two, the CBN can only defend up to a level. It sold Omo, it might sell again. But for how long? As you keep rates high, the local sector cannot borrow. So we are sacrificing local growth to bring in foreign FPIs to defend the Naira. But we have to ask ourselves, what defend Naira? Why? Is it to defend Naira so we can export more or import more? It's got to be a part of a policy, right? Is Nigeria exporting, which means we need a weaker Naira, or are we importing, which means we need a stronger Naira? Or are we just depending on Naira just for national pride? We have to be very, very careful and align the currency value to the long-term goal of the government. This is the point. We simply can't defend because we want Naira to be strong. We have
But
to say,
Kalu, something
what
must
do we want?
give. Something must give.
You have to choose one. You choose one. You either have local growth or you have a stable Naira.
But we've had,
Or you fight
yes,
inflation.
we've had local growth at a time that did not also impact the people. If you take a look at the exchange rate now and the yo-yo behavior of the Naira, it is transmitting, there's a transmission mechanism, a pass-through mechanism to inflation. And that actually also impacts the ordinary, every one of us, not even the ordinary Nigerian, everyone is also suffering right now. So something must give. Apart from that, there's an exchange rate
Which comes
risk
first?
there. There's an exchange
Which
rate
comes
risk,
first, Nancy?
petrol
Which
subsidy
comes first?
removal. Yes, I know. I'm thinking it through, but I'm also giving you the scenarios which we have. So which
Yeah.
devil would you rather take?
You have to
Petrol
fight
subsidy?
inflation first. I agree with the CBN.
Yes,
The CBN has to
exchange rate
fight
has an
inflation
input in
first.
inflation because we're an import-dependent country.
I agree with them. I agree the
Yes.
CBN is fighting inflation first, so they've raised rates higher.
Yeah.
That's what the monetary textbooks say. The point I'm making is that remember that once you keep rates high, you kill local growth. Which comes first? When you fix the economy, the exchange rate gets fixed. You don't fix the exchange rate and the economy gets fixed.
Fixing the economy will not take 3 months to 6 months.
How do you fix what's wrong with the economy? Inflation is caused by food. It's not caused by monetary expansion. Food prices,
Yes,
the
exactly.
bandits, that's number one. Number two, you have output being stolen. The crude oil is being stolen in Niger Delta. Apart from the shortings in the transnational pipeline, you have theft. If you fix these two issues, you fixed 90% of the economy. Because number one, you get your revenues back up from crude oil. Number two, you bring down interest rates by inflation caused by food. It's not being caused by this monetary expansion. It's caused by the fall in the supply of food. You can't grow more food by raising interest rates, Nancy.
Okay, Carlo, this is getting interesting. Let me give you a breather. Let's take a commercial break. There's a subsidy actually, but the government doesn't want to come out and say it. And I remember we did talk about it here, isn't it? I think we did talk about it here almost a year ago. You
We
know,
did that. We said
yes,
because the pressure of politics will be forced to
exactly.
subsidize.
Subsidize, popularity or populism against economics. Anyway, that's a
True.
discussion
We-
for, yes, for another day. Inflation data for March will be announced in just a few minutes time, about 25 minutes time, 12 noon, that's Nigerian time, by the NBS. What do you foresee? Where do we move
It's
to
going to
from
go up.
31.7%? We're going to go up
Uh, it,
around which band? Are we still going to stick within the 31%? Because there was a
I mean,
sharp rise from 29 to 31.
core is going to go up maybe tops 0.50 basis points, maybe tops. Problem is food inflation, Nancy. What's going to happen to food inflation? That's where the real, damage is being done in Nigeria. The food inflation is at 37%. It might go to 38, and that's where you want to watch it. How can a country have 38% food inflation for more than 2 quarters? And we're talking about the exchange rate of the naira. If the naira is gaining value, why isn't the food price coming down? Because it's this coupled. Again, we're not having this long-term fundamental addressing of the Nigerian economy. Food inflation is a more important topic than the exchange rate. So we have to focus and see what is important, focus on that and fix it. If we don't fix food inflation, nothing's going to happen in the economy.
Now, Kalu, the last time you were here, you talked about giving the president a leeway about 18 months. It's almost a year into this administration. What's your reading of the president's handling of the economy, either Batnomics or Tinubunomics? Now, let's put the economic board on set, because what I tried to do was to take a look at all our economic indices, at least majority of our economic indices, from external reserves
Yeah.
in interest rate at 24.75%, unemployment rate revised or modified by MBS to 5%. We have some other indices, GDP growth 3.46%, capitalization of the exchange at about 57 trillion naira, total public debt of the country at 97 trillion naira from 87 trillion naira. So if you take a look at all these economic indices, what's your sentiment towards Tinubunomics?
Well, I think he started off very, very bold in removing the subsidies on PMS and the float on the dollar. Very, very bold. If we had continued on that trajectory, by now we've been talking about step 2 of the reforms, which would be maybe consolidation of the reforms and all that. But he's gone back. There's now a subsidy on PMS. There's also a quote unquote subsidy on the dollar because we're selling dollars to the BDCs at a price that is maybe below what we are getting it when we are borrowing it. But specifically to the PMS subsidies, all the money is going there. If you look at the budget now, the number one item is debt payment. The number two item is not going to be PMS subsidies. You won't see it in the budget because they're sort of been hidden, but it's right there. Where you see it is that the returns from NNPC are going to be lower than what it should have been if there was no
So
subsidy. That's
NNPC
what
will
we're
be
seeing.
paying for the subsidy apparently.
That's
That
the only place we can get the payment. NNPC will pay for the subsidy, or CBN will pay for the subsidy. Remember that the CBN now receives the dollar returns directly from the NNPC.
Don't
But
you think
somewhere
that
it's
will
being
also
paid.
starve the central bank of dollars that it should be getting monthly? Perhaps the volume of dollars it should be getting.
CBN gets the dollar. It's the naira exchange that the FARC people get, right?
Get,
So
yeah.
before it is transferred over, CBN will just get that less the subsidy payment. That's really what's going to happen. We're going back to where before, not a new thing. That's what used to happen in Nigeria in the past. It's just that now it's going to be a bit, opaque because we don't want to admit that we're doing a subsidy. The numbers I'm hearing about 17 billion. Is it a day or a week? 17 billion. That's the number that was reported by a newspaper in Nigeria. 17 billion on the subsidy. You could ask, could we do something better with 17 billion? How much was students' loan? 50 billion. And those been increased, but was budgeted at 50 billion. We can do a lot more with money in Nigeria. You know, what I haven't seen with Buhari, with the Tinubu administration is that large-scale infrastructure project across Nigeria. I haven't seen it. We have to see something large,
You
massive,
haven't seen
and
it. What kind of
mind-blowing.
infrastructure are you talking about? There are talks of building Lagos-Calabar route.
It's
There
just
are,
starting. I'm just
yes,
seeing
they have to
cement on
start
the road.
from somewhere now.
And it's just starting. Like you said, it's almost a year. We
Yeah,
remember when we were here, we said he has to move very fast. The people are giving him about 3 months to get his act together. He has to move pretty fast. We've got to build. Listen, what we want to do is to reflate consumption, Nancy. The big point in Nigeria is lack of consumption. People don't have money to eat. No money
yeah.
to eat. So if you start to do this infrastructure project, start to spend money in Nigeria, people get money, they can start to buy goods, and the factories can start to reflate and start to employ people. Right now, we haven't seen, you're seeing people saying they are hungry. There's a lot of need in Nigeria. Everything's a sachet. Nobody can buy rice. Nobody can feed. You need to address that, not by giving people money to buy rice, but giving them jobs, high-paying jobs, even if it's for a short period of time. We need to reflate the economy, cut down costs, give people revenues to spend. And you do that from this massive infrastructure project that Nigeria can do. Roads, rails, just start from there. Irrigation projects, start from there. Get people employed in the hinterland. Agriculture is a big thing that we can do. The AFDB
Yeah,
sponsored a lot of stuff. We need to go back to the farms and get people involved in
okay.
mechanized
Now, the
farming.
role of the subnationals in this, because Tinubu will not also be in the 37 areas of the country, as it were. What should be the role of the subnationals? That's one. Then number two, as we end this interview, is what will be an advice that you will give to Nigerians, perhaps within the mid, because it's like the rich can take care of themselves, within the
Mm.
poor to the mid, income people in the country vis-a-vis what's happening around the country, and the misery index that's at about 36,
Mm.
36, yes, 36% now. That's misery index, unemployment rate with inflation. I don't know what inflation rate will be in a couple of minutes' time, but what will be your
Mm.
advice? Subnationals and the advice to poor to mid-income earners.
Yeah, I think we have to come together, and the president has got to tell the governors we have to work with one goal. We can't have parties anymore. It's a 4-year, elections are over. What is the big project? You want to construct roads, let everyone key in. And you put grants. If you like how America does it, if you key in, you get a grant. Build roads, build infrastructure, employ people, and the federal government will give you grants, and you are part of the federal program to create jobs. We have to come together and work for the people. You have to sell this thing. You can't go back to your office and have APC, PDP, labor meetings. That is done. People don't care about that. People want jobs and want food for their kids. So we have to come together, and infrastructure brings people together. So start from there on a common footing that everyone can agree on. Start from there. As regards what the average Nigerian should do, there are many advice to give to many classes. If you're a young person, the best way you can invest your money is take Naira and go and learn a skill that you can sell your skills abroad. So if you take your Naira, you go and learn Python, or you go and learn how to code, and you then sell
But not
abroad
everybody
online.
can do that. How about the people that can't
That's
do
why the
that?
young people can do that. They don't have anything. I mean, they are flexible. Go and learn a skill that you can sell your services abroad, even if it's plumber. If you're a plumber and you go to Canada, or an electrician and you find a way to London, you make more money. But learn a skill. Leave the market for now. Go learn a skill, and then try to sell that skill. So monetize yourself. That's the point I'm making, Nancy. Monetize yourself. Invest in yourself. Learn something. Diversify your income flow. Don't earn just the Naira. Don't have just one means of earning a return. Try to diversify that flow. Last I was in Nigeria, the stories are very bad. People don't. I mean, again, I say this, people don't have money to feed. You got to come to the really basic level in Nigeria: water, food, security. That's what people are looking for. Not even power. Water, food, security. So the young people have very limited place to go to make a living. Very limited. So invest in yourself so you make yourself marketable and you differentiate yourself, and then you can maybe export that skill and earn some dollars in to take care of yourself and your family. That's really what I can advise folks to do right now.
Okay, Kalu, I think that's the much we can take today. Thank you, my friend, for doing this. I hope you had a wonderful time with me this morning because it's been quite a while we spoke.
Anytime, Nancy. Anytime.
Yes.
We can have it anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do this again soon. All right. Take care of
Thank you so
yourself,
much.
and thank
I
you
will.
again.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Have a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah. You too. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.